All right, to watch this video for Tuesday, June 14th, let's start by looking at the SPY. Another day lower, pretty good volume. It's starting to feel like things could get ugly out there, not just because a couple days lower, but keep in mind we have FOMC announcement on Wednesday, I believe, and then a week from Thursday, which I think what is June 23rd, if I have that right, you have the vote on Brexit, as they say, whether or not England is wanting to exit from the European Union, and that could be a market-shocking event. So I think things might be, I don't know, preparing for something that could happen like that. So keep that in mind. And again, FOMC on Wednesday. So with that looming overhead, today the market traded a whole lot like a Monday in June. All right, just quiet, not a lot of stuff moving, but actually, again, was decent volume last couple days compared to the week before that. So anyway, let's go into the watch list. GBIM. Anytime I have a big volume spike like this, and I don't want to say a strong close, but a decent close, I guess. I mean, in the upper half of the range probably of that big pop, and you see it stopped right at the 200-day. You might get a red to green and a long setup in that one tomorrow. Remember, I'm a day trader. I don't hold overnight, so I just look. These lists are just populated with stocks that can make me money tomorrow. Okay. And then I only enter with a proper intraday setup, make sure I'm not fighting the market. So VHC got a nice pop today and is up near recent highs. Recent highs meaning right up here. What was the high back here? 545. Today's high was 545. Do I have that right? Both of those? All right, well, there's a good number, 546. Then you'll have to get through the half, but this one might pop. So I'm going to just write down 546 as a potential catalyst. Again, guys, I don't live and die by these numbers. It's just a number that breaks today's high. It might get going. Okay. SPHS, I had this on Bounce Watch today. It did sell off initially and then turn back up. I mentioned when it looked like this to the chat room that basically over the 10-minute high, over 190 might work. I didn't take this though, just to be clear. So that would have been 191, worst case stop 180, and it did pop, fairly quickly to 210, which if you're a day trader, you understand that's pretty decent money. But again, I did not take a trade in it, and I'm going to be watching it, just to continue the bounce higher tomorrow. We'll see. Not in love with that one. AHP, this one's interesting. It gapped up and then gave back a lot. The next day ripped lower, and now you've got a couple, like today's high and Friday's high are pretty darn close to each other. And there it is on 15, so you kind of picture a little cup and handle there, whatever you want to call it. It is interesting. I've got some numbers I like. If it breaks today's high, which would be 1411, okay, you look to the left, then you just have Friday's high right above that at 1417 would be a break of Friday's high. So I'm putting both of those numbers in my notes, and then if it can get over that 2-day high, it might continue higher here. So seems to have bottomed after the pullback. Goes on watch. Okay, CALI, a little bit similar to that when you had the gap up and it ripped and then reversed, and now it seems to be finding support down here. And you've got a pretty clear 2-day high over 220. Keep in mind it only traded 92,000 shares today, so I'm very much not in love with that one, but we'll keep it on watch. BLPH. All right, so BLPH had this big 2-day run all the way up over 450. Now it's back down to 217, but a nice narrow range today. So that goes on potential, long watch for tomorrow. PAY just goes back on Bounce Watch. Again, people look at this and say, well, hey, Mike, that's not a bullish chart, and it's not. I'm just looking for a snapback bounce one of these days. So it's, it's pretty beaten up. So that's what that one's about. GBR, let me zoom in a little bit here. So you had this big pop on GBR, took it all the way up to almost 420. And then today it pushed down below 180. I'd like to see this get down below the, at least below the 8-day, somewhere in this area, and maybe an intraday bounce. But that one, anytime you get a big move like that on big volume, I want to watch it when it starts to pull back. It feels like it's a little too early to watch it tomorrow, but I always say this, doesn't cost me anything to have it on a chart. Okay, just GBSN. You know what? I talked about this in the video from the weekend. I had this on watch today. And it did get a late day pop. I did not get that trade, but it got a late day pop. And now I'll have to zoom in a little bit here. So it's it's interesting. You had this big pop here, lower high, lower high, lower high. You have a first green candle in a while. So over today's high, which would be 189. And again, there's nothing really bullish about this thing other than it's a really low float. And sometimes, this is why it's on watch. Just see this one green candle here is the entire reason it's on watch. Went from 171 to 395. That is a monster move. And so, you know, whenever I see that, I know that with this float, this stock can do that. You know, it's got support below now. It's really holding this area right in here. So this one might give a pop one of these days. Even this day, it had a range from 226 to 345. Percentage-wise, that's really nice. So this one might take out today's high, 189, and start knocking down these other catalysts, which would be 202 and 207. And if it gets above that, it could squeeze. So, you know, it's an interesting setup, even though you have to kind of blur your own vision to see it, right? EYES goes on bounce watch again. I'll tell you what, I don't like this that much, though, because you had this big move on Thursday, and then I liked it when you had the inside day on Friday, but then now you've basically round tripped from the news, right? So you had this big pop. The volume is decreasing, so I'm still going to have it on watch, but I like these a lot less when they've done a complete round trip. I like to see partial retrace and then turn higher. So keep that in mind, but you never know. Maybe we're watching it tomorrow and news comes out on it, and because we have it on a chart and on our trading platforms, you know, we could get in pretty quickly. So we'll keep that one on watch. And then JAGX had the gap up rally. You see this? It looks like some of the other charts I just showed you. Down again. Then today gaps down but closes green. So I like it over today's high. If this gets through 2, it might pop. We're going to watch that one. And lastly, DRAM. Big volume pop and big move. Maybe a red to green in that one tomorrow. All right. In addition to all these, again, be careful out there. You know, I think it's going to be kind of quiet and choppy, and I think there is a little bit of fear coming into the market because of Brexit and FOMC coming up, not to mention you know, the worldwide events that are taking place as well. So just trade carefully, watch your position size, and I tell my members this all the time. It makes me sound crazy. Whenever I take a trade, you ever been to a basketball game and you hear the entire everyone in the stands chanting defense? That literally goes on in my brain after I take every trade, and if you trade that way with that in mind, defense first, you could be in this game for the rest of your life instead of washing out of this game because you were only thinking how much you can make when you take a trade. So hopefully that mindset will help you guys. I'm done babbling. We'll talk to you tomorrow.